theyeshiva.net.
There's a famous Talmud Yerushalmi that Divrei Torah aniyah b'makam echad v'ashira b'makam acher. Words of Torah are poor in one place and wealthy in another place, which means that whenever you learn any sugya, halacha, and gemara, mishnayos, or shulchan aruch, whatever it is, in any part of Torah, you don't have usually in one place all the information that you need to have. In one place it may be brief, concise, so to speak, poor in the sense that it's not fully developed or articulated that you can understand. And you look to another place and there you have more wealth. And you have to bring the two together. That's how it is everywhere. That's how it works. One sugya borrows from the other and the other one borrows from the first. That's how it works. Same is true, of course, in all aspects of Torah. Yesterday we started to learn the Maamarei in Torah, Lulav and Shtei Bonas, which was said by the Baal HaTanya in Tovkuf Ayin Aleph, as I mentioned, which is 1810. And the main idea he brought out in the first section of the Maamarei, now the Maamarei goes off to a second section, was that Rachel and Leah represent spiritually, mystically, two dynamics, the world of thought and the world of speech, the hidden world and the revealed world, or in the original language, Alma Deskasya and Alma Desgalia. And he applied it to the two stages of Jewish history. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when the Shekhinah was so manifestedly revealed in the Holy Land, the idea was that Leah was being filtered through Rachel. In other words, the energy of Leah, of the hidden world, was coming out through Rachel, who represents the energy that can be articulated and defined and revealed, because she represents Dibur. So therefore, Dibur, the skill of Dibur represents the ability to articulate things and tuning into those things that can be articulated through speech in an organized fashion. And therefore, there was a tremendous explosion and revelation of godliness in Eretz Yisrael in terms of the Beis HaMikdash, Nevi'im, Bali Ruach HaKodesh, Hashras HaShechina, Urim V'Tumim, the Karbonis, the fire came down from heaven, etc. After the Churban Beis HaMikdash, Rachel goes into exile. Kerachel Lefnei Goy Zizeh Ne'alama, that's the concept of Golus HaShechina. And the Avodah becomes one that is more focused on Birurim. Birurim is sorting, selecting, dissecting, struggling, removing shells and husks and excavating, right? Excavating and discovering the angel in the marble. But nonetheless, in Eretz Yisrael, you still have Leah. Leah does not go into Golus. And Leah is much deeper than Rachel, just like Machshava is far deeper than Dibur. It can't be articulated in Dibur. So when Leah is being filtered, so to speak, through Rachel, Leah is being revealed in a cohesive, organized fashion in Eretz Yisrael. That's the time of the Beis HaMikdash. When Leah is not being filtered through Rachel, it remains iskasyadik. It remains concealed. And thus, the Gilui Elokus in Eretz Yisrael lacks. You don't have the Gilui because you don't have the Rachel. But those people who can tune in to the energy that is available in Eretz Yisrael can tune in to Hasagas Elyonis Yoiser, to greater and deeper Hasagas, even then similar tzaddikim on the same level would experience the Bezman Beis HaMikdash. Because they're challenged to access the energy of Leah, which transcends deeply the energy of Rachel, because it's a hasaga and machshava rather than a hasaga and dibur. It's almost like not watching you speak, but watching you think. Watching you think, experiencing your thought, or on another level, not experiencing your conscious thoughts, but experiencing your unconscious thoughts. And he gives the example of the Arizal, or there was similar with the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who all in the time of Golus, not at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, and nonetheless their hasagas were unique. The next year, Tovkuf Ayin Beis, the Alter Rebbe said another Maamarei, also on this parsha. Tovkuf Ayin Beis would be 1811, which is actually 1 year before his passing, which was Tovkuf Ayin Gimel, 1812, Tevis, Chavdala Tevis. It's a very short one, and we made a copy of it. I mentioned one idea from there, so we're going to go back to this Maamarei. But to understand what he says here about Leah and Rachel, here there's a few hesbedim that he said 1 year later that give tremendous clarification and also application to this discussion about Leah and Rachel and what they represent. This Maamarei, you could see it. We made a copy here. It's from a set, Maamarei Admur Hazaken of the year Tovkuf Ayin Beis, that series of that year. And it's actually a uniquely short Maamarei. They're usually not so short. As you see, they're usually longer, but this is one paragraph. And if you look in footnote 1 on the word, it starts inyan. He says, Nitfas kan miguf ksav yad kodesh at Tzemach Tzedek b'sefer tov kuf ayin beis. Tzemach Tzedek, who was the grandson of the Baal HaTanya, his daughter's son, was one of the writers of his grandfather's discourses, and he wrote this down, this piece that he heard from his grandfather, and they still have the original manuscript, and they printed it from his original manuscript, from the Tzemach Tzedek, who wrote these words that he heard from his grandfather. And it starts, well, let's take a look inside. Inyan ki Senuah Leah. Let's understand the concept that Leah was hated. Vayehav es Rachel. And Yaakov loved Rachel, which is, of course, a pella shabapella. The Torah says, Lovon shtei banas, Shem HaGdolah Leah, Shem HaKtana Rachel, Vayehav Yaakov es Rachel. Torah, it says the difference. The eyes of Leah were weak, were poor, were soft. Rakos. Rakos means soft or weak or dim. Rashi says she wept a lot. And Yaakov, and Rachel is Yefas Torah, Yefas Marries. She's gorgeous. Her beauty is dazzling. It's splendid. Rashi says Toyar and Mara represent different things. Toyar is the physique, the symmetry of one's physique. And Mara is the ziv cluster upon him, the countenance, the face of a person. There's two aspects to the beauty of a body. And she's both Yefas Torah, Yefas Mara, Vayav Yaakov es Rachel. He loves Rachel. And the love doesn't stop. The love doesn't cease. It's not like after 7 years, it calms down. On the contrary, when Yaakov is deceived by his father-in-law, and who gives him Leah instead of Rachel, so it says that Yaakov consummates the marriage with Leah. In the morning, he sees Vayihi Baboiker, Vihine Leah, and he comes to Lavan and he says, Lamari Misani, why did you deceive me? I worked for Rachel, and Lavan, of course, says, I am the moral person, you're the crook. In our place, we don't put the oldest before the younger. You don't marry off an younger sister before an older sister. You finish your Sheva Brachas, Malish V'Lazois, you'll marry Rachel, and you'll work for another 7 years. You'll work for 14 years to get your 2 wives. And Yaakov agrees. He goes through what he goes through. And he'll marry Rachel, he'll work another 7 years. And the Torah sums up the story by Yav Gamis Rachel mi Leah. He loves Rachel too, but he loves her more than Leah. And the next scene is Vayar Hashem ki Senuah Leah. Hashem saw that Leah was literally hated. So Alter Rebbe wants to understand what's this union of Senuah Leah and Rachel is loved. How do you understand this? Besides, you have a question. So Yaakov was married to a woman that he despised, that he loathed, and you see all of her children. She struggles with this. The first boy she names Reuven. Ra Hashem ba'ani, God saw my pain. Ki ata yevani, she now will love me. Shimon Shama Hashem ki Senuah noichi, God heard that I am hated. Levi, now finally my husband will become a partner. Apam Yilava. So this is an experience in Leah. What's the Havana of this? What's the understanding of this? Hatam. The reason is this. Mishum shebchinas Leah hi gavoya ba'oid b'madrega. Contrary to what one may think intuitively when they read the story, or maybe exactly what one would think intuitively, Leah is an extremely lofty person, a very sublime person. She's in a very, very deeply spiritually sensitive person. When it says in Tehillim, Eim Habanim Smecha, she is the mother of the children. Remember, she is the one who ultimately brought into the world 6 of the Shvatim of Klal Yisrael. Rachel brought 2, Yosef and Binyamin. Bilhah brought 2. Zilpah, the other maid, brought another 2. So between all of them, you had 6. And Leah herself is the ultimate Eim Habanim who brings Shisha Shvat. And the number 6 is important. The number 6 Shvatim come from her. Yaakov. And that's why Yaakov could not really recognize her. What does this mean? He couldn't recognize her. Shehu b'chinas midas elyonos shehein lamata mehaseichel. Yaakov represents the higher godly midas, or as it often says in the Maamarei, b'chinas zaza eirampin, which is basically the combination of chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, chod, yesod. Those are known as the midas elyonos, Hashem's midas. That's what Yaakov represents, and they are always lamata me'aseichel. They are below awareness, because emotions are born from seichel, from awareness. Ki amidos nimshachis mehaseichel. Midos come from seichel. The pasuk says in Mishlei, Yud Beis, lefi sichloi yuhulol ish. According to one's mind, one's brain, one's seichel, a person will be praised. But here he teaches it different. Lefi sichloi yuhulol ish means, you could also read it yahalel ish. A person praises according to his seichel. In other words, our emotions are always commensurate with our awareness. You cannot emote about anything without an awareness, without a label. Emotions are usually born from awareness. I love this person. I despise this person. I'm scared of this person. I'm crazy about this person. I'm jealous of this person. Or this thing, or this item. Every emotion has to be preceded by thoughts that label it, define it, dissect it, and then you can emote. And that's why, even though sometimes emotions feel so intense, but the fact is, the way you think about things is ultimately the way you feel about things. We respond emotionally based on awareness. Sometimes we don't realize you could think about it in a different way because we take our thoughts for granted and we believe that they are absolutes. But the truth is, lefi sichlo yuhulol ish. Midos are always based on seichel. V'im kein ha-seichel atzmo yu l'mayla be'erech mehem. So the seichel itself is always higher than the midas. It's superior, it's deeper than the midas. V'shamu b'chinas Leah. And that's where Leah is. Like we learned in the Maamarei Torah, Leah is machshava, Leah is alma diskasya, Yaakov is midas. So that means Leah comes from a place that's deeper than Yaakov, spiritually, psychologically, deeper than Yaakov.
What do we see that Yaakov is midas? And I see that Leah's, you said yesterday, a very long thing, Leah's machshava is diskasya. Where do you see Yaakov is without midas?
So generally we say that Avram was the pchin of chesed, and Yitzchak was the pchin of gvura. The Zohar says this. And Yaakov was the pchin of tiferes and rachamim. Tiferes is considered like the vortex, the center of the midas. So that's why we associate him with the midas. Generally, even though it's midas ha-tiferes is considered like the central midah. Ella she pchina acher doinisha b'seichel. When you speak about Leah, seichel itself has so many layers. Leah represents the final rung of seichel, dahainu pchinas oisis ha-machshava, which are the letters of thought, shehein levushe ha-seichel, which are really the garments of seichel, because all ideas are cloaked in thoughts. Ideas are cloaked in thoughts. Pictures, truths, what we call seichel, ideas, the way we process ideas is by thinking about the ideas. Can you tap into an idea without thinking about the idea? That's a profound experience. We process ideas through processing ideas. Processing ideas means I'm thinking about the idea. That's the levush. So even though machshava, we don't distinguish between thinking about an idea and an idea, but the truth is, ideas and thoughts of the idea are two separate things. Machshava is considered the pchina acharoina of seichel because it's the levush for the seichel. What do I mean a levush? A levush means it's my handle, it's my access to the idea. How do I have an idea? I have to think about it, and then I could speak about it. But first there's machshava, which is a levush. Valkei nikras Leah. That's why she's called Leah. Shemilosh nayefus. Leah comes from the idea, which means exhaustion, tired. Kamoi vayilu limtzei hapesach. In Parshas Vayeitzei, it says that the malachim struck the people of Zdoim b'sanveirim. They were blinded. And therefore, Vayilu, they were exhausted from looking for the door to be able to break into Lot's house. They're searching and searching and searching to the point that they just fell from exhaustion and dread. It's too much. Vayilu limtzei hapasach. So Leah denotes Ayefus exhaustion. Shehinila tamid. Because Leah represents something that is forever exhausted, tired. Why? Machmas shemekabeles ha'ashpa b'tmidas b'li hefsek. Because she's always receiving a flow of energy and it never stops. Because thoughts are always moving. Even when you're sleeping, you would think you could shut off your thoughts. You don't shut off your thoughts. You just dream. But you're always thinking. You're always experiencing a flow of something coming into you. And therefore, Leah is always dynamic. There's always a vibrancy, there's always a flow, because in the level of machshava, the energy never stops. So she's always getting ashpa, she's always experiencing something, stimuli, and therefore it's extremely exhausting. Umikal makoim, hi lemaila mehamidus shein lemata measeichel legamri. But even though we're saying it's machshava, it's completely higher than the midas, because midas are in a different realm than seichel. They're lower than seichel. So this is a completely different realm than midas. Leah is above. V'lachein lo hikira Yaakov. And that's why Yaakov couldn't recognize who she really is. Because Leah was so deep and so beyond him, he could not recognize her true qualities. Mashtenkin Rachel. Rachel represents the world of speech, which actually follows the midas. It follows the emotions. It receives from Yaakov. Therefore, look at this line. That's why Leah was hated. You know why? We hate what we don't understand. Things that are concealed and beyond our comprehension, we cannot wrap our brains around it. We have no pleasure in them. They threaten us. They drive us crazy. They make us mad. They frustrate us. And therefore, we're forced to hate them. We're forced to hate them because they're too deep. They're too profound. We don't acknowledge their profundity because there would be no justification for hate. But that's the reality, the sensation that it creates in a person. Mashenkin midover hamusar, from something that you get, that you grasp, that you wrap your brain around, that you make sense of. This builds your identity, this confirms your identity, this enhances your identity. You got it in your bosom, you got it in your brain has it. You walk out with a smile, you feel good. And that's why Rachel is beloved. The zehu. And therefore, so now let's understand what is he saying, a little bit in our words. I mean, this probably can be applied in literally hundreds of different ways, or maybe much more, infinite different ways. I'll just say it in one application of it. When he speaks here about midos, seichel, machshava, it's also in a very abstract way. There's midos, emotions. There's dibur, words. There's machshava, which are thoughts. There's seichel, which are the ideas that produce the thoughts. This is a rung of the human personality, how our psyche functions. We speak, but you don't speak in a vacuum. Speech is preceded by the energy that what fuels your words. What fuels your words are emotions. What fuels your emotions are ideas. The transition of ideas to you comes through thoughts. Those thoughts are articulated in words and in letters. So that's the rung that you have. So you have Seichel, Leah, Machshava, you have Midos, Yaakov, you have Rachel, which is Divur. If you understand the context of what he's saying, though, he's actually, and here the words of the Torah are very helpful, Alma de Skasya and Alma de Galia. Alma de Skasya means something that's concealed. What does it mean it's concealed? Not that it's not deep. It's much deeper, and that's why it's concealed. In other words, I have no way of making sense of it. So what is the difference between Leah and Rachel? Here, Leah and Rachel represents two elements of your own self, your own psyche. Leah, Rachel, is the part of yourself that you could make sense of. It's the part of yourself that you can wrap your brain around. It's the part of yourself that somehow you can structure, you can talk about it. It's articulated. It's Almadiz Galia. It can be revealed. It has a place where it's settling. It's settled. You can classify it. You can put it in a box. This is who I am. Is there a part of yourself that you actually make sense of? We try to do this all day. Make sense of ourselves. Make sense of our spouses. Make sense of our lives. Make sense of our children. Make sense of God. Make sense of existence. We all try to do it in one way or another. If you're having a good day and you make money, it just makes sense. Exactly. You make sense out of your life, right? I go to work. I come home with a nice paycheck, even a nicer one. My life somehow makes sense. That's on a very simple level. But on any level, deep, more external, more spiritual, more physical, we try to make sense, first of ourselves, the people around us. And we love that. The more you can make sense of it, the more you're in control of it. It's predictable. It has a category. It goes in somewhere. There's filing cabinets. Your life could be put into places. It makes sense. We love that which we understand. What people understand, they love, they respect, they cherish, because it works. It works for them. We hate things that we don't understand. Why? They shock us. They frustrate us. They force us to, they rattle our comfort zones. Who wants to rattle their comfort zone? You want to make sense. Suddenly it doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in with your parents. What do? You
have to expand.
But that takes a lot of humility. That takes, the easier thing to do is
shut down.
As a meshugana. He's a meshugana. Another way we do it is apikursus. This is apikursus. How do you do it to yourself? You crush it, you deny it, you repress it, you delegitimize it, you curse yourself for it.
Okay to say that Yaakov hated himself, not he hated this father that he didn't bad to say.
Okay. But Leah and Rachel here are symbolic, obviously. These ideas manifested in the people, but the ideas represent every person. There's Leah, obviously, that's this paradigm here. Okay, so 1 second. So Leah represents the parts of the self that I cannot make sense of. I don't have my finger on it. I can't wrap my brain around it. It has my brain wrapped in it. I don't have my brain wrapped around it. It has me wrapped in it. It's the part of me that doesn't make sense. Now, let's apply this to machshava. When you talk about machshava, there's conscious thoughts that are already like dibur. Right? When you're reading the speech, you're also thinking. When you're reading the paper words, you're also thinking. That's already machshava of the world of dibur. That's articulated machshava. And then here we're talking about machshava that's even higher than midas. What would be machshava that's higher than midas? Seichel that's higher than midas. Here we're talking about emotions is my articulated self. Who am I? This is who am I. It's my articulated self. Seichel and machshava here is talking about a higher self that gives birth to my midas, but it's the mother. And the mother means it's the origin, it's the source. It's not only seichel means, okay, this table is brown and I like the color brown, I'll buy it for my house. Seichel means all levels of awareness that give birth to all of your emotions. How much do you know of that? All levels of your awareness could be conscious, could be subconscious, could be a little conscious, could be super conscious, could be subconscious, and could be subconscious and more. I don't know if I'm making up terms or not, but the concept you agree. So it's like how many layers, how many basements do you have, you know? You have one group basement, and you have a cave, and in the cave you have another cave, right? We're
discussing the lack of the emotional aspect versus the intellectual. When a person can intellectually say, I don't understand this, okay, it's out of my realm of intellectual base, but emotionally I can't expand into that world because it's too threatening to me. It seems like it's a division.
Well, emotions are very much how I relate to the world. The emotions are how I relate to the world. They're always fueled by an awareness.
So but a person is not intimidated by an intellectual lack.
Yeah.
A person doesn't have to be intimidated by intellectual lack. I don't understand that. It's above my pay grade. But emotionally, I don't understand how you're responding to me. Like it makes me backing off.
Exactly.
So once you're aware of it, it's almost like different. It's not anymore.
It's already closer to the world of dibur. It's closer to the world of dibur. It's alma de isgalia. So alma de iskasha and alma de isgalia exist on many different levels, right? What's revealed and what's concealed. But the concept is always the same concept. That which lends itself to be articulated. In other words, you can define it. Why? Because it's restricted. It's filtered. It's boxed in. So I can articulate it. I can define it. I can say it's this and not this. And that which is far more nebulous, far more elusive, far more abstract, far more intangible, far more mufshat, and therefore it remains concealed. Not because it's less intense, because it's far more intense. And therefore it has to remain concealed, because it shuns to be articulated in a particular way. It defies being restricted, it defies being limited, it can't be. Which is why our brain filters so much of our internal core and doesn't allow us to experience it, not because it's not there, because it's so there and it's so powerful and it's so deep and it's so infinite it can become overwhelming. So it remains concealed, and it has to remain concealed. And when a person is exposed to that concealment, it's exhausting. It's extremely exhausting. That is the p'china of Leah. It never stopped. Like you said yesterday, some people will say, I just can't stop thinking. So sometimes it translates, unfortunately, into a very serious, mental challenge. But again, we're talking here about the root of the idea, even in spiritual terms. And that is the concept that a person who is deeply, deeply in touch with a source, with a flow that never ceases, and it's extremely, extremely intense. It does not relax. But even in the sleep, you can't relax from it. You're dreaming about it too. That causes internal exhaustion because you're privy to so much more. You see more, you perceive more, you're sensitive to more, you're receiving much more, and it's like it's Niagara Falls. There's the flow of the sink, there's a nice waterfall in the lake, and then there's Niagara Falls. It's a whole different level.
But it's not static. What I mean is, it's true that when you don't sense something and you can't wrap your head around it, it's very frustrating, so it's very weakening, wasting, whatever. But one of the great joys, conversely, is when you take something that you can't wrap your head around and then you grow into it. I mean, in marriage, when a spouses begin to get each other, the discussing part, that's a great joy. I'm not a therapist, but like Moshe, but it seems to me when someone goes through therapy and a part of themselves they never understood, the therapist makes them understand. There's no greater nachas ruach than that.
Just the epiphany, guys, an epiphany.
Right,
Boom,
I'm saying.
changes direction.
That's the process. Originally, I hate it. If I stick with it, I'll learn to love it.
Why? Because I will understand it?
Yes.
Right. You come to respect it.
Iskasi will become Iskalia to you.
Expand your
It can be
base.
something that you're aware of, but you still don't grasp.
Of course. There's a trickle, there's a light, there's a glimmer. There's a glimmer. Now, so in every person, you have Leah and you have Rachel. In simple words, Rachel is the part of yourself that you can make sense of, and you do make sense of. Leah is the part of yourself that you can't make sense of. It's very hidden. It doesn't allow itself to be articulated because it's beyond it. And it's really a very deep place in the person, which comes from a much deeper space in him. And because it comes from such a deeper space in him, therefore, it has those qualities of iskasya, it has those qualities of machshava. It has to do with the deepest layers of the human psyche and the human existence that are very, very profound, and I can't understand it. It's too heavy. It's too much. That's my Leah. I usually don't know Leah. I don't have a relationship with Leah. And if I start having a relationship with Leah, it's like, whoa. Let's not go there. Please, let's not go there.
Rocks the boat.
Rachel, I love spending time with Rachel. I'm good. I have her. I have Rachel. She has me. Whatever. It works. It's a hand in the glove. Leah doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. So what happens? There's a lot of resistance. That's the word. Senuah Leah means people resist Leah. We don't like things that we cannot fit into our paradigms, into our comfort zones. They make us annoyed. And what do I do then? What do I do? The easiest thing to do is to say, I hate you. We're not the same type. Why? Maybe we are really the same type. Maybe you're triggering in me things that I don't want to deal with. And therefore, if I cut you out of my life, I'll have much more peace. What does it mean, cut you out? It can mean physically. It can mean emotionally, I'll cut you out. It means I'm threatened by you. It means I just can't be with you in the same Daled Amos. Or it just means I have to play a game with you. But it's all different forms of rejection. And it applies even in very simple ways. Sometimes, I've told you many times, there's different types of shiurim. Sometimes you'll hear a shiur. Most Jews, when they hear a shiur, they have one objective, to make it fit into what they know already. That's the objective of most shiurim. They want to make it fit in, right? That's why most responses that I will get over the years after a shiur is, it reminds me of a vart I heard last week. Why does it have to remind you of what I heard last week? Because that's what we do. I have a filing cabinet of who God is, what Judaism is, what religion is, what it's supposed to look like. You added a new vart, okay, it goes into this filing cabinet. Chasam Sofer, fine. Briskera, fine. Chazon Ish, fine. Noida B'Yehuda, fine. a story, a vart, a joke, but it fits into the box. Midah connected midah is one big paradigm in Judah. Okay, is another midah connected midah. And organized people, they build their portfolios of religion that way. What if somebody actually says something completely new? So either you fall asleep, which is resistance, right? Or you start texting.
Or tap.
Or you put them in cherem. Or you put them in cherem. You're threatened. So I didn't say, I'm a shugana today, so then you don't have to deal with it. Meshugoyim, I don't have to deal with. Because they're crazy. Crazy people are crazy people. Or I say he's not crazy, he's dangerous. He's going to destroy all of our kids. The same thing. It's resistance. I cannot deal with it because it was too new. So what do I do with it? Or maybe I could do something else. But that takes a lot of humility. Right? A lot of humility to do something else. So the natural process is that Leah we hate.
What is something else? Make sense out of it, but live it out.
Expand or kill.
What's the other way? I didn't want to say the other way because you have to figure it out. But there's something else.
Not making sense.
To sit with your pain, to understand why you're resisting it. What is it that you're resisting? Because that's where the truth is.
Not making sense.
Don't make sense. You don't have to manipulate it. You don't have to manipulate. You have to sit with it. Let it make sense of you. You don't have to make sense of it. That's the big difference. Let it make sense of you. You don't have to make sense of it. You don't have to come with a pen and paper and classify it. Leah defies classification. It's very exhausting to be in that mode. That's why we don't do it. We don't like it. Now go to the real Leah and Rachel, okay? In terms of a spouse. In terms of a spouse, it's quite obvious. Okay? There is the Rachel and there's the Leah. There's the part of your wife or your husband. I know there's some Nashon Tzedkanias listening. There's the part of your wife or the part of your husband that you make sense of. Right? Or let me put it that way. You try to make sense of it. You try. This is who she is. This is that. Right? And in fact, hopefully there was an attraction, which is the reason, right? The Gemara says, Asr l'adam l'kadosh ishta atchi yirena, shnema v'afta l'recha kamaycha. V'afta l'recha kamaycha doesn't only go on strangers, it also goes on your wife. There's a mitzvah v'afta l'recha kamaycha, at least like every Jew. And the Gemara says, mitzvah l'alev es ishtoi kegufoi, mechabda yosim egufoi, to love her as much as you love yourself, to respect her more than you respect yourself. So there's the element of my spouse that you call Rachel. What's Rachel? Yefas Tayar v'Yefas Mara. Rachel is beautiful. Who calls her beautiful? Me. I call her beautiful. Why? Because she's beautiful to me. Gemara says in Saita Shalish Chinasein Chein Isha Al Baila. This works. This is why you wanted this wife. This is why you wanted this husband. You love the humor, you love the spunk, you love the wisdom, you love the depth, you love the honesty, you love the candidness, you love the balabatishkeit, you love the sharpness, you love the emotional sensitivity, whatever. I don't know what all you guys were thinking about, but whatever it was, hopefully all of the above. All of the above. I hope your wife is listening. Huh? That's what you want. That's your fast Toyer. Rashi says Toyer Mara. Again, Toyer is physique, symmetry, and Mara is countenance. It's two separate things. So another Maamarei Vayeitzei. What's Toyer? What's Mara? Toyer is balance. Symmetry is balance. You know, symmetry, an artist. And then this Mara is not balance. Mara is the depth of wisdom that shines through the face. That is Toyer and Mara. But Rachel is beautiful. Why is it beautiful? You could say, this is gorgeous. This is a piece of art. Why do I call it a piece of art? Because I appreciate it.
You relate to it.
I relate to it. It's relatable. It fits into my paradigms. What a good spouse is. What a meaningful relationship is. What a fulfilling marriage is. What a romantic, loving, joyous life together is. It doesn't mean there's no struggles. There's no challenges. People are people. Their moods change. Dispositions change. People go through struggles. But Rachel is something I could, so to speak, put in my box. That's Rachel.
Finite.
Finite, yes. Dibur, finite, always finite. That's the word. Mem psucha. Leah is the part of your spouse that makes you exhausted. Why? Of course it's the same person. That's the point. It's always the same person. It's not even your spouse. It's yourself. It's also your spouse. It's also your children. It's your friend. It's everything. Everything in life is Leah and Rachel. Leah and Rachel. It's also Leah and Rachel. It's also two people. But like I told you, every character in Torah is a character in the self. It's the part of your spouse that makes you exhausted. And when somebody asks you, what do you think of this aspect of your wife? You say, I hate it. Of course you hate it. It drives you crazy, drives you mad, frustrates you, it annoys you, shakes you up. It's like, I can't deal with this. And some people have this, and sometimes it's overwhelming. I hate this. Or I say, what is it? What is it? I can't make sense. I can't integrate it into me. It brings up stuff. And again, this is on many different levels. This is not one word. This is many, many different levels. But why is it? I'm observing something that I never made peace with in myself. And because I never made peace within myself, I cannot make peace with that in you. So therefore, Leah is exhausted, and Leah causes me to get exhausted for the same reason. Because it's challenging me to connect to something. I'm looking at something that does not fit into my comfort zone. And it's rattling me, it's shaking me up. So what do? We say, get out of my life. Again, we cut off. Senuah, Leah, we cut ourselves off. How? Some people physically get cut, they separate. Some people emotionally, it may not be physically, emotionally. I create a new life for myself without you. Because when I look at you, I get headaches. I can't deal with it. So I go to places that don't give me headaches. I'm not going to sit with it. It's too difficult. Or I turn you into a meshugana. It's always the easiest thing, right? There's a t-shirt I'm very easy to get along with once you learn to worship me. That works. If I turn you into a meshugana, it's always wonderful. She's crazy. He's crazy. They're insane. I'm the normal one. You want a normal person to be with a crazy person. It doesn't work. So therefore, Rachel I love. Leah, instinctively, we have deep resistance to. Now comes probably the line that I still look at it, and it's astounding if you understand a little bit of the history of philosophy and psychology and psychoanalysis and therapy and studies of self-awareness and imagotherapy and marriage therapy and this, that this was actually said before the entire discipline was even considered in a primordial soup. Okay? But now look at the next line in this Maamar. And that's why Yaakov had to marry Leah, but only unconsciously. It could not happen in a way that he would agree with it. It had to be because Leah represents something that is beyond his das. So if you would consult Yaakov, he would say, never. It's beyond my das. This is not me. I'm sorry. This is not my shidduch. So we marry Leah, but we cannot be asked. Because if we're asked, we'll right away reject it. We don't like Leah. It's not me. I need somebody who's going to be my soulmate, not your soulmate and not God's soulmate. I need my soulmate. For this, I have to know me. But what about the part of me that I don't know? I can't marry that person. But there is a part of you that you don't know. So what Alter Rebbe is saying is, you don't marry one person. You marry two people. You always marry two people. Your conscious self marries your conscious wife or husband. Your super conscious self also marries, and it marries your super conscious spouse. So Yaakov has to get married to Leah, but it's shaloi midaita. If you would come to Yaakov and say, "Look, I was a shidduch, Leah, why don't you meet?" Yaakov was like, "Another shidduch. Find you another shidduch." Of course, super conscious always happens. Super conscious. So the marriage in Yaakov and Leah is not just a story and a love, and he fooled them and deceived them. It's a conceptual idea. We enter into a marriage with Leah, but always beyond our das, because Leah represents that which is beyond my das. So my das can't feel comfortable. My das won't initiate the relationship. I'm not going into this relationship. What does it do with me? It defies me. It challenges me. It frustrates me. It rattles me. It's annoying for me. It always happens shaloi midas. So on a level of yourself where you can't make sense of yourself, you're in a relationship with the aspect of your spouse that you also can't make sense of because it's beyond the conscious self. In terms of kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, it's the divine energy that doesn't lend itself to be articulated, and now you are in the relationship. But here is the key. Yaakov wants to marry Rachel. On the way to marry Rachel, you always marry Leah first, because you cannot have a relationship with Rachel if you don't first have a relationship with your Leah. Because if you don't have a relationship first with your Leah, your relationship with Rachel is based on cutting off who you really are. So your relationship with Rachel is really superficial. So the only way you can have a real relationship with Rachel is if you make peace with Leah in yourself and in your spouse.
You do the Leah tikkun.
So that's why you have tikkun Leah, tikkun Rachel every night. And tikkun Chatzos is tikkun Leah, tikkun Rachel. 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, yeah.
So this is by definition every marriage. It's not unique to Leah and Rachel.
Yes. So in other words, what we learn from this Maamarei that the marriage of Yaakov to Leah and Rachel is a story about almost every marriage. It's every marriage. To put it in very simple terms, whenever anybody is getting married, they always think they're marrying Rachel. Hopefully, I should say. I know not always, unfortunately. If somebody's forcing you into a marriage, it's a disaster, and you shouldn't allow that to happen to you or to your children. I don't care which community you live in. There's no right to force people into marriage. It's sheer cruelty. I'm not talking about helping people work through their fears and challenges. I'm talking about a person knows that I don't want this, and to force them, I don't understand the logic of it. And to blame it on Judaism is a separate disaster. Okay, that's just the truth I had to say. But unfiltered.
What you're saying is that even if it's not prearranged marriage, it's also the same thing.
Of course. That's exactly my point. If it's a prearranged marriage, then God runs the show. Then I don't know what to say. But I'm talking about, so to speak, a conventional marriage, which is at least not completely prearranged. There's some level of familiarity, or maybe even a deep level of familiarity. You always think you're marrying Rachel. That's why you're marrying her. Hopefully, you fast married. This is great. It's going to be beautiful. You don't get married to get divorced. It's not Hollywood. Masechta Gittin is not supposed to come before Masechta Kedushin, only when you're learning Gemara. Right? You don't get married to get divorced 6 hours later. Before the end of the wedding, they already have a nuptial, 28 million for her, 28 million for him. So I'm getting married to Rachel because she's Yifas Toiv, Yifas Married. So we're always going to marry Rachel. And when you are planning to get married, you're planning to marry Rachel. But then there comes the next scene of the pasuk. Vayarba boiker v'hinehi Leah. The sun shines, and you take a look, and you're like, whoa. I ended up with Leah. But that I couldn't have initiated. I couldn't have processed. I couldn't have created it. I would never create it because the I would never be in that relationship. It was created for me, by me, but not by my conscious me. There's another element of Yaakov that took him to Leah, and Leah took him to Yaakov. Now, there's another Maamarei of the Baal HaTanya also in Torah where he describes why Lavan is the one who did this. It's not for now, but why Lavan? What Lavan represents. Lavan comes from the word white. White is the color that includes all colors, endless possibilities. Lavan is the ultimate crook, which spiritually means Lavan represents something that's not fixed in a particular image. A crook represents somebody, I said this today, but tomorrow I change my mind. So in this world, it's a horrible trait. Everything has a shirish in godliness. It means the level of kedusha that's not fixed. It's not stuck. And therefore, hechlif es maskurti aseres moinim. There's no one color. It's not green or blue or yellow. White is the source. Ultimately, it includes, it contains all colors. So therefore, Lavan makes the switch. Because Lavan challenges the person not to get stuck in anything. Okay, that's again Al Pi Ruchnius in a different Maamarei, and also in Friday Parshas Vayeitzei. So what happens here is, when I get married, I'm always planning to marry Rachel, and that's how it should be. And we make up in 7 years, and it's great, or 7 months, or 7 weeks, whatever it is. When you get married, maybe the next morning, maybe the next year, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 17 years, whatever it is, v'hinehi Leah. And what happens when you see Leah? It's like, oh, whoa. I hate Leah. I can't deal with Leah. Get it out of my life. You're not for me. Who ever heard of this? I never knew this. I never saw this. But the truth is, there's another path. And the path is that You have to open yourself up to the part of you that you never made sense of. And therefore open yourself up to the part of her that you never made sense of. And then you can actually marry Rachel. There's the path to Rachel always leads through Leah. Because if not, my relationship with Rachel is based on cutting off who I am. So I can't even love Rachel with my full being. Because my full being is not in the relationship. Because my full being remains detached from the relationship. Because a lot of my relationship with Rachel is still based on my insecurity. So therefore, it's through Leah, which is exhausting, that I can ultimately reach Rachel. And as we all know in the end of the story, ultimately, in the physical story, Rachel passes on, and Yaakov remains married to one person, to Leah. And Yaakov is buried not with Rachel, but with Leah, which is interesting, because Rachel was his dream. But ultimately, Rachel is part of Leah. She's really part of Leah. Alma Disgalia comes from Alma Disgasia. It's one world. So the two sisters really merge, so to speak, on some level, into one. And Leah is the mother of the 6 Shvatim. Now, according to this, I think we have a whole new depth in the Minhag Yisrael of the Badekanish. I'm going to bring up some very sweet memories. You remember your Badekanish? The Badekan, the Chassan veils the bride. Why does the Chassan veil the bride? What's the reason? The time I'm in Hagen, there's different reasons for it. One is the Shechina is on her face, but it's an interesting thing that she's veiled during the chuppah. And in many communities, when he does the Kiddushin, he doesn't see her, she doesn't see him. So you're putting your ring on her finger. By many communities where she remains veiled throughout. He says, Harayat Mekudeshes Li, arguably the most important moment of the marriage. They're getting married. It's like everything is going to be based on this moment. Halachically too, this is the Chalois Kiddushin, Eishesish, you need a get. All the halachas, it's a serious moment, it's the moment. And at that moment, he doesn't see her, she doesn't see him. For all he knows, it could be Hillary. Okay, it's just a joke. But for all he knows, it could be, I don't know, the Shviger. He doesn't see her. The rational wisdom would say, you're getting married, take off the Badekan. Exactly. You don't cover up the merchandise. She goes around 7 times examining the merchandise and he doesn't see anything. What's pshat? So it says in Svarim, because Leah was covered. That's why Yaakov didn't see. Why didn't Yaakov see who he's marrying? There's a whole Mishnah. Why didn't he look? She was veiled. Lavan was very frum. And it was a real thick veil, it was 10 tvachim probably, or maybe 10 amas. Shir chazoinish. So you couldn't even get a glimpse of a glimpse of a glimpse. And Yaakov was deceived. Now we have, so my question is, why do we want to perpetuate what Lavan did? Lavan did it. He wanted to fool Yaakov. We don't want to fool anybody. The emes is you have to do the Badekanish. Because basically what the Badekanish, you're telling your Kala is that I know that I'm marrying 2 people. I am marrying the part of you that I see, but I'm also marrying the part of you that I don't see. And I know that when I'm entering into the relationship, I'm entering into a relationship with somebody that part of them I don't see. Not because I don't want to see it, but because I can't see it at this moment. Not because I'm dumb and naive, but because that's life. There is a journey into deeper and deeper layers of self. And if you're not ready to marry Leah, you're not ready to marry Rachel. You're not ready to marry. If you're not ready to marry Leah, then you're not really ready for a relationship, because part of you will remain outside of the relationship and part of the other person will remain outside of the relationship. Because the moment you will discover your Leah or her Leah, it's like, whoa, I hate you. So therefore, the Badekanish is essential to that process. So therefore, Yaakov's story is really our story. So we marry Leah. We always marry Leah, but it happens on a level Shaloi Midas. And the rest of your life, you work that out. You unravel that mystery where each day Alma Diskasya becomes more Alma Disgalia, and then there's another layer of Alma Diskasya. Initially, Leah causes exhaustion. That's Leah. Initially, Leah causes exhaustion. Rachel, we said, it's brought in Kabbalah. The Rameh Mifanu writes, Rabbi Menachem Azaria Fanu was one of the big Mekabolim in Italy. He says Rachel is Begematria Vayihi 238. Exact opposite. Rachel is Ohr, Dibur, light, revelation. Rachel walks into the room and everybody says, Vayhi Ohr, the light has come. Rachel is about light. Light is about seeing. I could see. I see what I get, just like when you speak. I speak, I hear you. I don't guess your thoughts. I don't know your inner thoughts. Rachel is the part of self that's Ohr. You can shine a light on it. In other words, it could be seen, it could be articulated, it could be defined. That's Rachel. Rachel is the you, Rachel is the sheep. Now, if that's the case, so it's a whole different Mahalach Rachel. They were two different types of people too. You can't compare who Rachel was to Leah was. They were two completely different personalities. Two very different types of people. Eine Leah, Rakos. The eyes of Leah were very tender. They were very soft. You looked into Leah's eyes, you saw there's a lot there. You could dismiss it if you were superficial. But his argument here is that Leah was hated not because she was a bad lady or because she was just, never made it. Leah was hated because she was too deep for most people. And when we encounter very deep people, we just don't like them. Why? It challenges mediocrity. Mediocre people don't like big, deep people. They challenges us, and therefore we do different things to them. The first thing we do is we cut them out of our life emotionally. And that was the story of Leah. There's an expression, somebody once said, we don't love other people, we love our version of them. That's the key. We don't love other people, we love our version of them. I have my version of you, and it fits with me, and that's what I love. Rachel, yifas mara. The question is, do I love you, or do I love my version of you? Do I love my child, or do I love my version of my child? It looks like you love your child, but maybe you only love your version of your child. And as long as he suits the version, perfect. He goes on that path, whatever that is, I love. The moment you're not my version, it's like, whoa, I can't make sense of it. There's no nachas here. What is the community? It's not predictable anymore. Once it's not predictable, it's very, very difficult to sit with it.
Why does Leah have to come first?
What's the secret? Humility?
Humility helps. Sense of humor helps. Humor helps. Some other things help too.
Alcohol helps.
It helps. I don't know if it's a solution.
One would speculate that Paravodas Hashem works by the same dialectical movement of converting Olam Discussi into Olam Skaldi. And just like Rachel and Leah, you have to start with Veil. Maybe we have to start with Kafel and Harkigigis. We never would have agreed, or Yaakov never would have agreed.
Beautiful.
And then as you move forward, you convert.
Alma Discussi, Alma Disgalia. You're saying Kafaleim Harkigigis would be like Leah. There's a part of the relationship that I can't ask you. The next year here will be Monday. Okay? Monday morning. Not tomorrow and not Shabbos. My brother is here for Shabbos, yes.
Why does Leah come first?
Why does Leah come first? Leah by definition comes first because that's the real relationship.
That's where the work is.
Huh? Leah is your real self, your deeper self. It comes first, number one. Number two, it's a result of this. To be connected to Rachel, I really have to be connected to Leah, because if not, I'm not connected to Rachel with my full self. And I'm not connecting to her with her full self. I'm just connecting with her in order to make myself comfortable. I'm not really connecting to her with my full, undiluted self. I'm just connecting with her because that makes sense. It works. To be able to connect with Rachel in a real way, I need to connect with Leah in a deep way. And ultimately, Leah will have to be filtered through Rachel. That's what the Beis HaMikdash looked like. Leah works with Rachel. That's the unity of the two sisters. The Shechina filters Leah so I can articulate Leah. And then there's a time of Churban where you have to deal with Leah itself. In other words, we would call that somebody who has a breakdown. The Churban is a break emotionally. Beis HaMikdash is a cohesive self. The Churban is the breakdown of the personality. Your Beis HaMikdash gets destroyed, right? Your Shechina goes into Galus. And all you have is this chaos in your life. And now you have no choice to go to Rachel because Rachel broke down. Now you have to go to Leah. And that's the Arizal. The Arizal tapped in to the infinite chaos of the universe that was only available in Galus. But when he tapped into that, he can heal the world because he went back to the original Leah. You get it? So the Arizal was forced, the Baal Shem Tov, they were forced to tap into a chaos because the integration was not available anymore. So they had to go and make real peace with Leah. They had to be able to open up the world to the energy of Leah and heal it. That was probably their greatest depth, their greatest greatness, because you run away from these stuff. It's like nuclear energy. There's a lot in this little Maamarei. There's a lot here. It's not so short as it seems.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.